What is up guys, I'm KBHD here, and this is a revisiting of a phone that probably got some of the biggest hype of 2013. And judging from the comment section of my CES bag tour video and many other people on Twitter, etc., people want to know how this phone has been holding up, and it's been about 4 months since the full review. So the natural place to start would be the hardware, because when it first came out, this Galaxy Note 3 design was one of the most talked about in Samsung's lineup, specifically the material choices. So the size of the phone were the first in any Samsung phone to appear sort of metal, like the Galaxy S4, but it's a soft material and it's held up pretty well. But really, it's the back of the phone here that's gotten a lot of attention. It's the fake leatherette stitching and soft touch feel. Now, I actually like this feel on my black Galaxy Note 3. I've actually switched to the black one since the review. It's a little bit less soft on the white Note 3 to avoid staining, and I think that was a smart move from Samsung. And as soft as it is, there's really only one small blemish on the back of my phone, and it's only noticeable from certain angles when it catches the light well. That would have been a full-on scratch on a plastic phone like the Galaxy S4, but then again, it probably never would have been seen on a metal phone like the HTC One. So this soft touch design and the stitching is somewhere in the middle, and I kind of dig it. I like holding it. And the stitching has also now made its way through all of Samsung's lineup, including the Galaxy Gear smartwatch and their new tablets and even some of their packaging, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the Galaxy S5 rock this same material, but that's another video. Either way, I take really good care of all my electronics, and I don't really actually use any cases or screen protectors on any of my phones, which some people think is crazy, but this Galaxy Note 3 has been perfectly fine to withstand that test. Anyway, what I was hoping would be better with this phone is the software. So in my original review, I talked more about this in depth, and of course I'll leave the link to the full review right below that like button if you want to check it out again, relive that. But essentially, since I've gotten it, I've done everything I can, short of rooting it, to make it a sort of a Google edition Galaxy Note 3. I grabbed the Google Experience Launcher from KitKat, a bunch of the AOSP Google-themed apps, the keyboard, and I basically mirrored it to my Nexus 5 as much as possible to make it more pleasant for me to use. And of course, with its top-notch specs, none of that really impacted the performance, but here's the thing, no matter how hard you try, you can't shake Touchwiz. It pops up wherever you go in this phone, in the settings, in the notification panel, in the visual styles, and the fonts. It's everywhere. And at this point, I actually don't really like Touchwiz that much. I much prefer stock Android from something like the Nexus 5. And not only that, but you gotta remember that since this phone has come out, a new version of Android has released. It's Android 4.4 KitKat. And this phone doesn't have it yet. It's still running Android 4.3 Jelly Bean. Now, not that that's old or anything, but just today, Samsung announced they released the kernel source for Android 4.4 on the Note 3. So that's definitely on its way soon, but even when that drops, it'll still only change so much, and ultimately, it'll still be Touchwiz. And Touchwiz has so many features and so many alterations that it actually impacts speed in a couple of ways. It impacts the speed of the operation of this phone. It's such a heavy skin that the phone actually needs all 3 gigs of RAM that it has. And it impacts the speed of updates. So you know how we keep seeing those Motorola phones like the Moto X and the Moto G get super fast updates to KitKat? It's because they run a version of Android that is very, very close to stock. And that will never happen with the Galaxy Note 3 because of Touchwiz. So if you're not into rooting, you'll have to settle for finding equivalents of stock Android features in the Play Store like I did. And I managed to find a lot, but really not everything is a perfect equivalent. I looked through all the stock-themed camera apps, for example, in the Play Store, and they all seem to work all right. They can take quick photos. None of them are particularly bad, but none of them can record 4K video like the Touchwiz camera can on the Note 3. And they all seem to crash when attempting to take a photosphere or a panorama or do anything too fancy. So this is the reason why I have 2 of a lot of apps on my Note 3. One AOSP themed app and one Touchwiz one to back it up that I just have to keep around. And that camera one is actually kind of a big deal. I really wish I could tap into 4K video more often with the stock camera interface because the footage looks phenomenal. Hey, if you don't believe me, check out some recent Super Scientific videos shot on his Galaxy Note 3. They are crispy. I'll leave some links below. But other than that, this phone is just as great as you'd expect after a few months of launch. And it's been surprisingly successful for Samsung. You know, the whole Galaxy Note line started as basically an experiment, and this third version has sold way more than 10 million for them. So they are really serious about it now. It's no longer an experiment. Other minor things, I wish the camera had optical image stabilization to make the video even better. I wish it had wireless charging built in like the Nexus 5 instead of having to spend extra money on a case that adds it. And I wish the design of the UI was just better than what Samsung has here with Touchwiz. So really, at the end of the day, when you're looking at a phone like the Note 3, you look at the software. If you like the software, that whole Touchwiz experience, and you like the hardware, this is still a great phone, and it's one that I have no doubts will be super duper future-proof because of all the great specs, the massive amount of RAM, the great display. It's just all around a great phone, and we all know that. I'm not a person that uses a stylus that much, so I'm actually really into this phone still, because I can pretty much guarantee you that when this phone gets a Cyanogen mod build, a stable build of the ROM that brings the AOSP experience to this phone, it'll be getting a lot more use from me than it already has. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.